to have a reason as to how you want to partner. And I like to think of it as my story angle. Like, I'm not a journalist, but I think of like, if we were to partner together on a campaign, what would the listener get out of this? Like, what's the point of us being together and doing this together? So the story is like key. And I find the story typically by scrolling on their social content, by looking at their website, by looking at what other past campaigns that they've done for me to craft how I want to approach them. And we could talk about approach in a minute. Once I pitch them, my main thing with a pitch is to just get a response. It may not end up to being anything financial, maybe a year, maybe down the road, maybe 2 years, sometimes even longer. Like, my main goal right now is to just get someone to read the email and be like, hey, Danielle, thank you for reaching out. Let's start a conversation. So that is the first milestone when it comes to building this relationship with this brand. Now, you're going to be talking back and forth, and then you're going to say, hey, I'd love to meet you, because in 15 minutes, you can learn about their struggles, their pain points. You can learn about how they've worked with podcasters in the past, or why they're maybe apprehensive to work with podcasters. You can answer questions. This is like a fact finding mission when you're on a call with a brand. And it also helps you to stand out, because a lot of people want to hide behind the keyboard and not be personable. When you are on a call, you can show your personality. You smile, you make jokes, make laughs, and instantly build that connection. And when they're ready to spend their ad dollars, they're going to spend it on you versus someone that just kind of hid behind the email. Okay. So when you're meeting, you're building that rapport. You are again trying to figure out, okay, what is a topic that we're going to talk about? How are they thinking about marketing? How can I help them? How can I be of service? Again, I have two clients, well, three clients. I have me, like, I'm my main client, very important. But also the brand is my client. Like, how am I serving them? How can I help fulfill and push their goals at the same time, serving my audience at the same time? I'm not going to abandon either one of these shareholders, because all of us is important to make this smoothly run. And the best way for you to learn about a brand is by asking to hop on a call and meet with them. So don't hide, be in front, ask them for a meeting in that exchange. And then once you meet, they're going to say something like, send me your proposal. You put up together a proposal, what you think the campaign will look like based on the objectives outlined by the brand, right? We're not guessing here. We're going to pull straight from what they told you. Hopefully, they gave you a budget amount. Hopefully, they gave you some details, but you're making an informed decision. And we'll talk about pricing in a second. And there's a couple of things to think about pricing. You deliver the content, you debrief, and you do it again. So this is the how you keep it consistent. You research, you pitch, you meet, and you price. The most important way for you to be consistent when it comes to sponsorship dollars is for you to be pitching. So I have one day a week where, and I wish I was more consistent, but on a good week, I have a day a week where I focus on outreach. I focus on pitching, following up, because that's how the cycle starts. If I'm on their radar, then we could start the meeting and negotiating and the pricing and maybe next year, right? But if I'm not putting myself out there, I literally close off the income stream, and there's no drip of the income coming down. So I have to always be, again, in my business model, I'm always pitching to put myself out there. Okay. So, with that broad overview, I told you it's a full time job, right? It's not just like, especially if you're not like someone who gets people reaching out to you, you have to be proactive. But with that, what do brands care about? Brands care about three key important things. And once you know what they care about, you can focus in and dial that in throughout your whole process for your sponsorships. Your audience, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the same person that they are talking to? My biggest partnership, again, that flight deal service, we are talking to the same person. They're both financially savvy travelers. Like, they want to travel, they want to find cheap flights. Done. Easy. That audience could also look like demographics, it could look like sociographics, but again, are you guys talking to the same person? Your reach, we cannot get behind, like, we cannot avoid download numbers, you can't avoid your engagement, you cannot avoid these things. So always stand in front of your numbers and be upfront and honest, because dishonesty is going to really be a quick ticket to losing relationships fast. But they are going to want to know, how many people can you touch, can you influence, can you reach? And then past partnerships. I think why I struggled in the beginning, number one, I wasn't pitching. Number two, I didn't have a system and I didn't have past campaigns. So even if you have never partnered with a brand before, I want you to take an affiliate that you have and pretend that's a partnership. I want you to be always ready for partnership because you're doing things on your podcast that shows that you are partnership ready. So start running pre-rolls, start running mid-rolls, get your audience in this active mode of doing something. Click on this link, sign up for my newsletter, do something. Do not let an episode go by without asking them to do something beyond the like typical rating and reviews. No, we want something very actionable. And you can go again and have that trackable by using Bitly links and trying to see, okay, are people actually taking action? Because if I ask them to buy this thing, I want them to buy it when I have the campaign dollars there. Okay. So these are the three things that brands care about. And I feel like most of us really need to focus in on the past partnerships and being able to showcase, like, hey, here's what it would look like to work with me. I am not going to be able to imagine what working with you looks like if you've never shown me what working with you looks like. So you have to get in that mode of like, what does a brand need to feel confident in investing with me? Let's see for are we a little bit over, Justin? I feel like I have a couple more slides. Let me
You
know.
got
Are we
it.
good?
Yep.
Okay. Types of campaigns. Remember when I talked about when you're in a meeting with a brand, you're trying to look at these two different camps. Are they looking for an awareness campaign? Meaning, do they want to just be out there and visible and known? Meaning that that metric of success is going to look like downloads, page views on your website, follows, views on social or your YouTube channel. That's awareness. They just want to be known. Compared to a conversion campaign is when you actually they want your audience to do something. And this is actually quite hard to do if you don't have the influence and you don't have that rhythm of like getting your audience on board to do what you say to do. But conversions looks like signups, clicks, sales, calls, subscribers. This is harder to do, which is why I always say practice. Start practicing from day one so that it becomes a lot easier. The reason why I'm really stressing conversions is because that partner that I talked about, the flight deal that signed on for the third time in 2 years, they told me specifically, like last week, they were like, yeah, we want to have you back on this year because we see them using your promo code. Like that's tangible. Like they could see the sales coming in. This is an investment. When a brand is working with you, it's an investment of their marketing dollars. And our goal as podcasters is hopefully to make sure it's a great investment so that they can keep coming back more and more. I think awareness campaigns are a lot easier because you can just kind of spray and it's, you could kind of show like, hey, you had a lot of reach, but the conversions are really, really, really hard to do. But when you're on the meeting with that brand, think about like what keywords are they saying so you can understand what success looks like for the next time. All right. So finding sponsors, here's a list. I'm going to just point out some like more unique ones that I feel like you may not be thinking about. If you have past guests on your show who has a product or a service, then you definitely need to be either having a question on your intake form about, hey, do you have a product service that you want to promote? Maybe become an affiliate for your product. Or if the relationship allows, you can ask them, hey, would you be interested in sponsoring as well? So your past guests can be a gold mine depending on your niche. So that can be something that you may not be thinking about. Definitely listening to other podcasts. Honestly, I don't like listening to other travel podcasts. I find them really boring, but it's not about entertainment, it's about research. So I am listening to other shows to be like, oh, that person is getting sponsored by that person. Okay, cool. Put it on my notes list to see potentially in the future if that makes good sense. Conferences are my moneymaker. Like I love speaking at conferences. I'm on stage, I'm teaching, I am also getting a free ticket, for example. Maybe I'm getting paid to be there. I'm meeting with the brand. It's a win-win-win on both sides, but it's a great way to get that in-person connection really quickly and then you can follow up and have the conversation. I also like Podcorn a lot. I don't really get that many campaigns from there, but I'm always checking to see like what comes up because there's some really cool ones. So Podcorn is like this ad agency. You can be whatever size, and you can just literally like reach out to a brand that's posting on that platform. So I love it for like a good tester to get a feel of like how it's going to feel to pitch a brand. And then Lastly, Creator Wizard. So Justin Moore is a podcast sponsorship coach. He's a mentor. He's one of the people that helped me become more consistent with my podcast sponsorship game. He has a fantastic newsletter where he will literally send you a list of brands and their contacts and potential pitch ideas every single week. So that's a great place to build that directory for yourself. Okay. So pitch essentials, I'm going to make this quick, give you the important gist when you're reaching out to a brand. Again, I want you to lead first with your story. Like you did all that research, you figured out what that synergy is and how you want to present that brand to your listeners and your audience. So lead with your story angle and your story idea. Also, when you're talking about your story idea, mention why it's relevant. Mention why right now is a good time to partner and how it's going to be beneficial now versus, for example, a little bit later. Also, another way to bring it home is to tell them what listeners are going to get out of this campaign. So, example, for that flight deal series I worked on, the second campaign, I told him, like, hey, listen, I want to do a 3-part flight deal series. We're going to talk about how flight deals works, how to find mistakes fair. And after this series, they're going to feel confident knowing exactly what a flight deal is and why your product is the best solution for them. Like it's literally the best layup possible. And when I was able to spell it very clearly, they can say yes or no. When you're reading your pitch, I want you to ask yourself, are they going to say yes or no? Because if they say yes, great. If they say no, it may not be the right time or the right idea, but at least there is a definitive like direction when they say no to you. When you don't get any response, that can mean that maybe they're not interested, maybe they didn't read it, maybe it's boring. But if you have if you can make yourself definitive, I think that's the best because you'll have a clear and clarity to know, okay, should we work on this next year? Can I come back or what do I need to do to improve? So pitching, I think it's so core and it's one of the most important things you can do for consistency. How to price campaigns. Keep on moving. So I have a QR code here. It's a blog post where I talk about CPM model versus flat rate fee. And just to give you a preview, as a small indie creator, I'm gonna always 1,000% always push you towards the flat rate fee. You're gonna get paid more, and it's a one-time fee. So flat rate meaning, let's say you're gonna get paid $3,000 for this campaign, and you're gonna have a few deliverables in that package. That is equal to the amount of value and work that you're doing compared to CPM, $25 per thousand downloads. When you're a small podcaster, you're doing so much work, getting no and very little reward. And it's to me, it doesn't make financial sense and it's not motivating. So again, I price through a flat rate. So I figure out based off our meeting, based off of what the objectives are, what deliverables, multiple touch points that I'm going to put into this package so that number one, I could command more money, but number two, they're going to get the most bang for their buck. Pricing depends on a couple of things. Complexity. I mean, when I was working with a bank, that was super complex. 2 episodes, but it was like, gosh, that was literally 5 months of work right there. So charging higher makes a lot of sense. So complexity, deliverables, how many items, how many actual items, I'm going to promise. Is that a blog post? Is that pins on Pinterest, 3 reels? Like how many of these will definitely bring the price up depending on how many items I'm going to put in there. Revisions, banks, gosh, they're going to ask for legal review and all of these need to be priced in your packaging because every time I gotta sometimes also like my tourism board clients, like I have a little bit of an accent, like I say itinerary and I say things wrong and then they'll listen to the episode, they're like, I loved it, Danielle, but you said this lake wrong. Oh no, I said the lake like 50 times, so I have to go back and re-say the same word literally 50 times. So revisions is something that sneaks up on you, but as you get more experience, you're going to know, okay, I'm going to promise them only 1 revision or 2 revisions and keep it moving. Okay. Exclusivity. So if a brand is like, hey, Danielle, you cannot work with another airline for 6 months. Well, you got to pay me that. You have to pay me that loyalty to you and not take on any other projects that I could be because of that exclusivity. So these are some things, which is why I can't say like just charge this. You have to really weigh all these options and knowing what the campaign goals are. Okay. So, lastly, how do you turn your one time gig into something that is longer? Honestly, it's by doing good work. Once you get them to sign the dotted line, really thinking about when I'm saying my ad, like how am I making it clear and compelling and staying true to both the brand and also my listener so that what you actually say on air is super important, but also how does that ad fit in the episode? So again, I realize like if I'm talking about cheap flights, it best be in an episode that's related to financially savvy travel, not fire, not real estate investing, not random. No, like it has to be packaged in an episode that makes sense for them to take action. And then debrief, like go back to the brand and say, hey, this is what happened. Like good. Or if it's not so good, tell them what you would do in the future to like prevent that or to do better. But that same sponsor that's back again for the third time told me that I'm the only podcaster they worked with that actually sends a spreadsheet with what happened at the end of the campaign. So that professionalism, I care about my client, and also like I am the best investment in your marketing dollars, and I can prove that with the numbers. So I think that's how you keep it, is just by being very thoughtful how you present your ad to your listeners, but also following up and continuing this relationship. This is not a transaction. This is a relationship. I care about my clients like I would any other type of client that I have that comes through my door. All right. Okay, that is it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Danielle, you crushed it.
Woo!
Let's first knock this out. Danielle, you're going to share the slides with me and I'll share the slides out with everybody. All right, cool. I know you had a lot of good things in those slides too. I did remember to press record about halfway through your presentation, so I'll still probably get tarred and feathered for that one, but that's okay. We got some of it. um, two things that are going to happen now. First, if you want to stick around, talk about sponsorships, maybe even ask Danielle about some marketing topics too. We're going to have that discussion right here. I'm also going to open up another breakout room right now. And we are, I'll name it networking. And maybe if you're not feeling the conversation around sponsorships, you want to meet some other people, you want to have more general conversation, go meet some of the other people that are on this call today. Feel free, hop into the networking room. Kyle's got to hop over there and moderate that conversation. So whenever you go in there, he'll call you out, your name, what your podcast is, kind of what you're doing for work, and then maybe talk about some of the questions that we put up in the chat at the beginning. You know, the $1,000 question, or who you'd want to interview, or if you just have some general things that you want to talk about or some questions you want to ask, you can head over there and feel free bop between the two of these conversations. But then 5 minutes to the top of the hour, we'll pull everybody back in here and we'll do some wrap up. So I appreciate that. I think the room is open. Can someone give me a thumbs up if they can see the networking breakout room? Should be down at the bottom. You should be able to hit breakout rooms. Oh, I bet I have to do this. Now do you guys see it? All right, cool. Sweet. So that room's open now. If, like I said, you guys want to go over there and chat. Danielle, I got a ton of questions for you, though. I think we had a few questions that came in before the meeting, and I think we probably had about 6 questions that came in via chat. So I'm going to throw some things at you. If anyone has some other questions, feel free to drop them into chat. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, feel free, hop on camera. If you want to just be in listening only mode, you can kill your camera, make sure you're on mute, and you can just listen along. So Danielle, let's start with some questions that I got here. Let me get some things out of the way. Do you feel like there is a perfect right time to seek sponsorships for your podcast? Is there a episode threshold or a number of listeners? I know you kind of gave that 500 to 1,000 as a good maybe benchmark whenever you can start from the download side. Do you have any opinions on the number of episodes?
I don't think so because for my new show, knowing what I know now, like I've been thinking about sponsorships like first thing. Like that's huge. So I don't think it's you have to decide. I think you have to decide that you're going to push yourself to do this. That's when you know you're ready because there is give and take, right? Like I'm literally waiting to record the next 3 episodes because my sponsor hasn't got back to me with the approval of my ads, right? Like there's good things and bad things about sponsorships, but you have to be ready and willing to open that door. Um, I also feel like if I didn't experiment, I wouldn't know these things. Like everything I shared was through literally failing and making mistakes and figuring out like what's the best course of action. So the sooner you start, you'll get better. Like if you're not pitching, just work on sending your pitches and getting that like response, right? So I think just starting as soon as you can will get you in a good place for sure.
I think that makes sense. Next up, how do you combine podcast sponsorships with other forms of monetization, such as like a paid membership? Do you have some thoughts
Yeah.
on blending these?
Yeah, one of the things I love about sponsorship is that it's not typically exclusive. So when you're signing the contract, they're not saying you cannot work with anybody else ever, right? So you can, let's say, do a mid-roll, you can do a post-roll, you can talk about your products and services seamlessly in the conversation. You can, one of the like best ways I love is like affiliate income. So I'm gonna throw in an affiliate whether in the episode or in the show notes. Like I always want to make 3 ways to make money for each episode. Like, and I have hundreds of episodes now. So that's like thousands of ways to make money from your RSS feed. So think of a sponsorship as like they're buying out a certain portion of your episode, whether that's a pre-roll, mid-roll, maybe the full episode, but you can definitely include things on air and in your episode description and show notes as well, for sure.
Cool. I think that makes sense. Do you have those kind of 3 ad placements? And then, of course, you probably prioritize sponsors. And then if there's some left over, you maybe fill it with your own paid services or products or your affiliate links that you're promoting at the time, or how do you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my 4 options actually is pre, post, mid, and then a whole episode. So again, pre is less than a mid, and mid is more than a post. So the mid is always the most pricey. That's traditional in podcasting. But if you want a full featured episode, that's gonna be boku more money than it was like a 20 minute. You can also do like 20, 30 1 minute ads. Like you can actually add on more money based on the length of the ad. So there's lots of things that you can do to bump your price or reduce the price. And sometimes even in negotiations, a brand will come back to me like, I really want to work with you, but my budget is X. So I'll be like, take that off and take that off and reduce 30 seconds from that ad and to make it fit so that it's like I get compensated for it as well. So there's a lot that you can do for sure.
I think that makes sense. I'm going to pull a question forward here because I think it's on this topic. Do you charge variable pricing based off of ad placement and episode? So beginning, middle, or end, or as you mentioned, post, mid, or pre? It sounds like yes. Can you give us like
Yes.
a rough idea of that, like of what
Yeah.
that stage pricing might be?
Yeah, so it's a couple things. So I don't give the same rate to every client, like a bank client, and let's say an app will probably get 2 different rates.
Sure.
And I can determine that by asking if they could share with me their budget. So on the call, I'll just say, like, do you have a ballpark range of like if so I want to hear from them. If they're like, oh, just send me something. Everyone always has a budget, by the way. Like they probably may not know exactly what it is, but if they see a number, they're gonna be like, ooh, or oh, that was great. So I try to position it where it's like, tell me what your budget is, and I'm gonna match what you have with what I'm offering, what I'm willing to give. Um, and then because I have packages, I don't pull out. I don't know exactly how much a pre-roll is because it's 2 pre-rolls, an Instagram reel and a newsletter mention. So that way it's like the value of the package is X dollars and it's not about just like that one little mention because honestly, when you have only one mention, it's not effective. Your listeners might have to hear something like 7 to 10 times to do something that you say. So multiple touch points. It also like makes it opaque for the brand too. They're like they don't have to think about a la carte menu. It's more like a package. I'm gonna get the package of 5 things in this versus a package of 10 things in this, and I think it just makes it easier for everyone across the board. Also, a lot of brands are into influencer marketing, and that's how bloggers, YouTubers are they package their rates. So not they're not usually just doing, oh, one reel is X amount of money. They're usually putting things together. So we're speaking the language that is familiar to them.
That makes sense. Wait, can you rattle off a few other things that you might include in a
Sure.
package? You said the Instagram post as one potential. So outside of podcast world, what else have you seen people include in their sponsorship packages?
Yeah. So anything that you ever do for your show, it could be a deliverable. So the reel that you do, the newsletter that you do, the sidebar on your website, um, link in bio can be for like, let's say 14 days, 30 days, like that can be something that you put in there. You can do a blog post, you can do pins on Pinterest. So I literally list out every little thing I do for my show. And I that's up for grabs in a potential package. And this is where trial and error works because when I first started, I would put like the kitchen sink in that package and I'm like, gosh, this is only $500. I'm working all night for this. Like it makes no sense. So really be in touch with yourself to be like, okay, when I did this, this didn't feel in alignment. But if I made that maybe bigger or smaller, that felt better for me. And that's how I've been pricing. So it feels in alignment to me. And I'm also getting validation from the brand when they're like, okay, I'm willing to pay that. So I know that I'm hitting that like match right there.
That makes sense. We had a bunch of questions come up as you started talking about engagement. So maybe you can kind of try to cover all of these here.
Yeah.
This one question was, how are you proving to potential sponsors how engaged your listeners are if big numbers aren't enough for them to pull? Like, do you, and I love this idea too. They mentioned the history from past promo codes or affiliate links as a potential thing. So I guess maybe I don't know if I did a great job summarizing that, but and then a follow-up question was like, are downloads the only way to show engagement? So there are a couple of like engagement type questions. How do we start to quantify what our download numbers might actually result for them in terms of an ad campaign?
Yeah. Can I share my screen again?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, perfect. I like to show and tell. Okay. So on my website, I have a work with me page. I'm going to scroll uh, quickly for a second so you can kind of see it. So, if you've seen me talk in other places, I walk through specifically what this page is about. But just to give you a rundown, it's a page dedicated to my potential sponsors that lets them know everything that they need to know about me, my show, and what working with me would look like. So, it's a work with me page. I have a bunch of like I'm literally talking to them. So, I'll put the link here if you want to check mine out. But I'm going to scroll a little bit so you could see examples of my campaigns here. So, one second, I have a lot of stuff going on. Okay. So, here's what I'm talking about. So, when you're thinking about engagement, you want to be able to track everything that you did in the campaign. So, you want to first know what the goal of the campaign is, which we talked about. Is it awareness? Is it going to be a conversion campaign, for example? Like, have the goal in mind. And then you want to know what your deliverables were. So for this campaign, it was a blog post, it was a podcast episode, and it was like some social stuff, right? So with those three deliverables in mind, I know website page views is going to be very important. How much time was spent on the page is going to be very important. I know downloads is going to be important. Maybe listening time, like how long did the average listener listen? Also, any clicks. So any links I have in the episode description within the podcast players gets a bit.ly link. So I can tell them exactly, okay, that hotel partner got 55 links. And sometimes with those bit.ly links, you can actually make those affiliate too. So imagine I'm in the travel space again. So if they had a hotel partner, I could literally have that hotel partner link out to booking.com and I could know exactly how much bookings happened as a result of this campaign. So track everything with a bit.ly link. That can be a way because sometimes when you have promo codes, like the brand may not tell you how many times that was activated, but you can see on the back end how many clicks that you got as well. Also, if you use something like Pretty Links, that also has a tracker on. So you could figure out, like, okay, I use, let's say, thoughtcard.com/indie. I could see on the back end how many times someone typed in that exact URL and I can report that back. If you're doing any social post, grab those numbers, right? If you're doing newsletter, talk about the open rate, talk about how many clicks that those got. So anything clickable, anything like trackable, that becomes part of what your debrief looks like when you're showing it off to a brand. And then I just do a summary. So I have a page dedicated to my portfolio. This is my portfolio page. So they could see all different types of campaigns from awareness to conversion. And then as I get like little cute little testimonials and stuff, I put that in there too. So I do send this over to brands so that they can really like see beyond me and my media kit and things like that. They could really see what happened and what potentially some of the brands had to say. So I think this is like another one of my secret sauces that helps me pull things together. I also asked the brand, I'm like, hey, what's important to you? Right? Like, I really want to get app signups. Okay. Then I'm going to make sure when I'm debriefing that app signups at the top, tippy top of what I'm showcasing. So I think you just have to track everything and present them to the sponsor and then fine tune it as you go.
I love that. Are the read here, is that more like a case study? Like
Oh, that's the blog post.
oh,
So
that's just truly the blog post that you okay,
exactly.
got it, got
Yes,
it.
exactly. The 9-minute blog post I wrote. So yeah,
Good for
exactly.
you. Good for you. Cool. How about presenting your stats? Somebody asked, how do you present your stats to sponsors?
Yeah.
Do you have a pitch deck and you kind of plug things in? I don't know if you could share some things on that front too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I recommend a media kit. A media kit, think of it as like your resume, and media kits are typically apples to apples across the board, whether you're a YouTuber, you're a blogger, you're a podcaster, like that's a language that brands speak is media kit. Some of the things I think that's important though, when it comes to your media kit that's different for us is really talking about the average. So sure, the total number of downloads we have, but if you were to invest in one episode on average, that's realistic to the brand. So averages are very, very key and critical. Adding things like your photo, like your brand photos, like showing your casing your personality, talking about your audience. Like if you know like little tidbits about them, like my audience, digital nomads, they love hanging out in Thailand, for example. Putting those little anecdotes there is also really helpful. When I'm pitching the brand, I will have my media kit in there. So it will be the story angles and all the things, but it'll also be like, hey, check out my media kit because that is a language that they speak and it compares apples to apples across all industries when it comes to content creation.
And then follow up to this, how do you get those kind of demographic stats on your listeners and kind of all the stats that you share via your media kit?
Yes. Okay. So it's scattered. We know everything in podcasting is scattered, right? So it's, gosh, Apple Podcast Connect. You're going to have Spotify. What is it called? Spotify Podcast, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Your podcast hosting player. You're going to go to Chartable. Chartable has a paid tier, which I feel like it's so cool. Like you could tell like your household demographics, like how much money your listeners make. I'm like, what? You have to pay for that though. But at a minimum, that can show you a couple of things that's important for your analytics. Also, I like listen notes too, because it'll tell you like if ranking is important. So like if you're a top 1.5% podcaster in the world, like that's something that you can pull from listen notes. So also your socials too. So you could look at like your social demographic and have that be an extension of your brand. So there's a lot of places that can feed you to create this comprehensive view.
Think we got most of these covered. Now I'm going to flip back over to chat because I know we were dropping in some questions as we were going here. Oh, wait, actually, process piece to here.
Yeah.
Process question. Do you pre-record your ads and drop them into your episodes, or do you read them out as you're recording?
Hmm. I think it depends. So for that, like for example, that 3-part flight deal series that I did, it was as I was recording that episode, I kind of like paused and then I read that the ad out. Um I think it depends. I just think it depends. But I typically like to do it while I'm sitting down. So I like to have my script all ready and then I do it while I'm in the recording mode there.
Yeah. Jackie, you got a question?
Yeah, I did have a question. When you were talking about the media kit, so do you have your media kit openly available on your website, or Okay,
Yes.
so it's on your,
Oh, let me get to the link. Yes, if you want to take a look at that.
okay.
Yes, and here's the reason why, because I think reasoning is important, right? We want to know why we're doing something. Because why do the back and forth? Like back and forth is money being wasted. Like that's preventing me from getting the bag faster. So I've had brands reach out to me and they're like, I saw your media kit. Like they already saw what they needed to see. And now they know with certainty that I'm the one. So that could help for if they're scouting you. But also it's like, don't hide it. Like just be upfront with it. It's gonna just help you to just get to whatever goal that you need a lot faster. And this is a living document. So mine on my website is actually linking to Canva. So when I update it, which I usually do before I reach out to anybody, I know that it's updating in real time. So I do not recommend PDFs. Don't do it because it's you have to send multiple versions. So just have it in Canva, for example. It updates in real time. So everyone has the most recent link. And you could use something like Pretty Links to make it nice. So it could be like thoughtcard.com/media kit, but it really is a Canva link. So you can mask that using like a Pretty Links, for example.
That makes sense. I think we're gonna have time for only just one more question here. And that was about contract. So Rita was wondering who drafts the contract? Is that you as a host or the company paying for the sponsorship?
I ask them up front. I just say like, hey, do you prefer that I draft a contract? Or if you do, I purchased a contract from like an attorney years ago. So I've been using that as like a boilerplate template if I am asked to do that. Um, yeah, I just feel like no matter what, you just want to read through it with a fine tooth comb, like everything. You want to make sure that you agree to everything. And if there's something that is not clear, ask about it. And if you want something to be taken out or negotiated, like this is your time to talk about it. Like, not, don't feel the pressure to sign something. Make sure you're putting yourself in the best position by talking about it, having a conversation.
Awesome. Danielle, do you have any time after the top of the hour or you got to jump right away?
Nope.
Okay.
No baby right now. So I'm good. I'm good
All right,
right
crew.
now.
Well, we're gonna wrap things up here. Danielle's got to stick around. I'll stick around. So if anyone else has some discussion or questions that you want to continue, I mean, I can leave it open. I got a whole nother half an hour after this. I don't know if I'll hold Danielle hostage for that long. But she volunteered to give us a little bit extra time if you have some follow-up questions that you want to continue to ask or discuss about. I just want to say thanks for everybody that jumped on today. I know it's a investment of your time to come in here and learn something new and to invest in your podcast. And of course, if you need support, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody else on the call today. I know this is a really, really giving community. So I'll bother you guys all whenever the August event gets set up and established. And if you have any ideas for future topics, feel free to reach out and let me know. Thanks, everyone. All right, we'll let some people hop off here, and then if you got some questions for Danielle, we'll open it up, and or just general thoughts too.
I had one question.
Yes, Don.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you both for putting this together. Danielle, I just launched my podcast only about a week ago, and I've basically promoted it on LinkedIn. And I only have about 3,500 followers on LinkedIn, and I'm going to start promoting it on Instagram and TikTok. For someone, their first, I would say 30 to 60 days, who really wants to grow and get downloads, do you have any like top 3 or 3 to 5 points of advice for those first like 60 days?
So Kevin Schmidlin from Grow Your Show, right? Grow Your
Grow
Show.
the show, I think.
Grow the Show. Yes, Grow the Show. He has a fascinating episode that I am like listening. I'm probably the one that's driving all his downloads to that episode because it's so amazing. So I'm gonna link it here. It's episode 171 about like metrics for tracking growth because we are so like downloads focused. But what people are finding is that your podcast typically will attract 10 to 20% of your total audience, total. And I was like, what? That's not true. Let me look. So I did the math this morning and it's really real. If I look at my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, my threads, my newsletter, all of them, it's 20%. Like 20% is the high end, but 10% to 20%. So I think it's a very interesting number because based off of your audience, you can see, okay, maybe there's this correlation where 10 to 20% of my total folks will listen to my show. So I think that is a good, I feel like we finally have something that sounds concrete. But when it comes to growth, some things that I'm really interested into right now is series. I feel like series is like crushing it because you get to really dig in one topic and explore that topic without constraint. And also it's binge. You could say go back to the series, like go back to episode 77, and it just loops into this creativity. Also just understanding podcast search optimization. So Asha coined this phrase PSO, and that's all about how does the podcast search algorithms work like Apple and Spotify. So some key things to look at is your podcast title, like the name of your show. So my show is called The Thought Card. I don't know what that is. Like that's not like it could be so many different things. It could be crafts, it could be whatever, right? So a lot of podcasters are doing like extended titles, extended SEO optimized titles. So it's like the thought card, keyword, keyword, keyword. So making sure keywords are in there is like a great like low lift way for you to grow without even having to promote and be on social like that. And then this could it could be more work or not, but if you are on Pinterest, Pinterest is also a fantastic way to grow because literally you have a visual asset that you can just have people click on and go back to your website and show. So that's something I'm always thinking about long term. Like, what can I do today that will last 5 years from now? It's still around. My website's going to be around. My podcast SEO is still there. Pinterest is still going to be around. Versus Instagram, I just feel like it's just so fleeting, and yeah. So I try to do anything long term focus. Lastly, what I'm doing personally right now. So I'm on Pinterest. I'm working on my Pinterest strategy. I'm just also hopping on as many media queries as possible. So there's this website called Quoted. It used to be called, there's another one that used to be called Haro. There's Help a Reporter.
Yeah. Help a
But
reporter.
there's it was Help, but they sold it, but now it's another one. So I have another one, the same owner, like he sold it and he created another one. So let me find that in my inbox. But I'm just being a resource now to anyone who needs financial side. Like there's CNN, like all of these things are in my inbox. I could just respond to them. And that's now giving me links and coverage. So that's something that I feel like, and that's free to do. Like you don't necessarily need to hire someone to do that. So again, just thinking about how can what I do today last me for years to come.
I like those
I'll find,
strategies a lot.
I'll find the name of that thing. that I'm
Perfect.
bidding
Thank you
on.
so much. And if you've come across any podcast episode that teaches Pinterest is not something I've delved into yet, but I absolutely hate Instagram. And anytime that anyone mentions something that gets me around having to deal with the shit show that is Instagram, sorry for cursing, I would absolutely love to learn about Pinterest. And I know that Jenna Kutcher has a course on it. She has a course on everything, but I kind of prefer to learn from micro kind of in the trenches type of people versus big people, because I just think there's all this MML stuff going on right now and I've kind of had it. I'd rather
Yeah.
work with like real people.
Yeah. So I want to circle back. So there's Haro, which is like the OG
Yeah.
one, but there's Hero. So the founder of Haro created Hero now. So that's pretty cool. I really like Simple Pin podcast. So it's just great for foundation knowledge. And then I'm sure if you type in like Pinterest on any of the podcast search engines, like podcast players, shows will come up and then you could find the one that works for you. I think there's like Pinterest in 10 minutes or something like that is another one that I listen to. So yeah, those could be great places to start.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love Grow the Show. And speaking
Yeah.
of series, he has a really good series that he put out in December. It was like the 12 Days of Christmas, but 12 Days of Podcasting. And I've binged that series 2 times at this point in time, and he's gotten 25 downloads from me because of that. and I just like save them all, listen to them all. I was like, wow, this is so good. And I wasn't in a place where I could write down notes. So I went back and sat down and actually listened to it and wrote notes at that time. So
And something that I've been like, I'm really focusing on my content right now. And like, I've been focusing on super beginner content, like one episode, and also not jumbling topics together in episodes. It's just like this one episode is 30 minutes on what is wealth building.
yeah,
That's it. Because that I feel like people are typing in some of the most basic things like how to change a tire. People are doing that on YouTube. So why can't we be successful with super basic things in podcast? I fell into the trap of like doing advanced stuff because I felt like that's trendy, but I feel like we can literally build our knowledge base with our audience on our RSS feeds. So I'm doing beginner content too as well.
yeah, I think that makes sense. Claire, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Danielle, super great info. I'm trying to figure out if and how I want to start with the sponsorship. You touched on it, I guess, a little bit that you shared. We just have to decide whether we want to dive into, because it is an extra work and effort. And so just kind of to share, I've been podcasting for about 3.5 years. I'm trying to keep weekly cadence. But can you drill down a little bit, like what's the deciding point, if you have, any pointers or how to think about it, when it's actually worth trying to kind of get into the sponsorship world? Again, I have, just to share, about 100 downloads probably on average per episode. I've doubled that on YouTube. I recently actually launched YouTube without really any marketing, so that is around 200. But trying to think about, how to grow, whether I even want to grow. Really, currently, I run it as a hobby. But yeah, any thoughts on that, or direction, or questions you would suggest I ask myself to kind of figure out at which point it's worth it for me?
Yeah, the main thing that came up for me is like, am I willing to pursue this and not see anything for 1 to 2 years? Because if on like, for at least for me, on average, like I will wait 1 year to 2 years to close a deal. And if I'm not willing to do that, then this is not a business model for me, which is why I'm always progressively pitching and putting myself out there, so that I'm never, something's always due, right? Rent is always due for me. Somebody's going to say yes at some point, but that seed was planted years ago. So I think that is one of the things I would think about, the time constraint, but also thinking about, is there anything else I can do in the meantime? So do you want to do digital products? Do you want to do a membership? Do you want to do like private podcasts? Do you want to do events? Do you want to do merch? Like there's so many other things, consulting, coaching, right? There's so many things and levers that you can pull, and that may be more lucrative faster than sponsorships. That's something I had to decide. Like I said to myself, like, I want the Thought Card to be my, like, this is how I want to primarily make money on this brand. Like I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to do anything, but just, I want to create content and have someone pay for it in the background. And it just takes time. I wish it was easy, but you won't know how easy it is until you start. Like you have to start, because then you may be like, Danielle, it took me 3 months. Like it took me like way less than you did. But for me, what I've noticed is that it takes a little bit longer to build those relationships.
Claire,
Yeah,
any follow-up
thank you.
questions there?
No, I guess, in ways I've been lucky that I have like the affiliate links. So it's not that hard to get affiliate links. And when I reach out to brands, especially sports brands, so my podcast is kind of related to sports and lessons we learn from sports and how we apply
Nice.
them to the next chapter of our life. So kind of optimizing ourselves and being the best possible humans we can be, and that is different for every person who is a guest. So it aligns with quite a few brands. I guess I'm trying to figure out now, how do I move them from the affiliate link to kind of be dedicated to get at least some sort of monthly subscription. So you actually shared a little bit of that strategy, and maybe that's kind of like next step I could kind of take forward. So thank you.
Yeah, you could take your affiliate and make your own like talking points within episodes so it's natural, or do your traditional ads, and that will drive affiliate sales. And then you could use the, you know, the result of the affiliates to be like, hey, you have to work with me. Look at how great this is converting, you know? So you could do it that way where you're still making money on your way to your sponsorships.
Yeah, thank you. That's true. You got to invest up front to get higher upside payback later. Nothing's for
Yeah.
free. Thank you.
I-
So true.
I really like the affiliate approach, Danielle. You gave me
I
that like a
do.
year ago. And
Mhm.
like I do that with almost all of my clients that want to start monetizing their podcast through sponsorship. I'm like, cool, let's work towards that. We probably got the media kit we got to build out. We got to start identifying some
Mhm.
sponsors. Let's go grab an affiliate link right now, a product that you really love, that you feel like your product, that your audience really loves as well. And just start getting your audience used to hearing ads. B,
Absolutely.
start practicing promoting other products, and then see what kind of engagement you actually get from your audience. Because I mean, you might be able to sell one deal, but ultimately you want these deals to continue renewing over and over
Mhm.
again, or else you're going to be spinning your wheels on a lot of business development, and it's probably not worth the squeeze. The juice isn't worth the squeeze at the end of the day. But if you do find out through an affiliate link, like, whoa, I had a couple like of signups like immediately, then maybe then you can kind of refine and start building a sponsorship package.
Yep. You could do episodes on that sponsor. Like you have so much room. You have a lot of room. And like something I always do is I always say 3 ways to make money in each episode. So, and it's not always on air. It could be my episode description. Like I always have like tools financially savvy travelers love, tools entrepreneurs love, and they're all like there's just my best affiliate links. Books, if I have any guests that have books, they all get affiliate links, right? So there's ways to grow your income as you're scaling potentially to your sponsors.
Yeah. Jackie, I'll get to your question, but I want to flip things over to Mason because I know we didn't address your question in the chat.
Mason.
Mason.
Oh, you can go ahead and get, yeah, go ahead and get Mason.
All right, Jackie. Normally I'm ladies first, but just Justin doesn't know the courtesy. Danielle, first I want to say just thank you so much for like diving through everything. It was really cool. I am going to be a little bit more on the controversial side. So I don't have a podcast, but I'm pretty active on Instagram, and I do a lot of community events. Like last year I did like 57.
Wow.
So the thing that I'm kind of asking about is I also compete at, I'm an endurance athlete, and I compete at like a pretty high level, you know, just think like world major marathons and like high rocks. Like I'm going to France in June for some world championships, and I do some pretty big ultra marathons.
Wow.
But that being said, like I was wondering like what kind of like tips or tips you would have from like a social aspect of like coming up with like a media kit and like how I could pitch. I also work for First Form, which is like a supplement company. It's like I can't do like supplement sponsors, which I don't really want to or anything like that, but more like there's a lot of like fitness brands, goos, shoes, apparel that like I have that I like a lot, that I think that like I have a pretty good following, pretty good interaction. Like, what is your route for that? And like I try to take notes in comparison on like my side, and I think I got some really good stuff, but I just wanted to see if you had any tips, like how to value the media kit, how to individually value like, oh, I can make reels, I can do promos, I can wear your shirt through the High Rocks like World Champion Expo, things like that.
Okay. So I think what I'm not hearing you say is that I'm not hearing you saying that you built out your portfolio, meaning that like, if you're telling me a brand like, hey, I could wear your apparel, when you're going to that France trip, I want to see you wearing apparel and starting to shout out some of those brands and tagging those brands. That I think is maybe potentially be the missing piece, because if you're at this higher level, brands may be reaching out to you more than you're having to pitch, but you need to showcase that you're doing this.
Yeah.
So, for example, your Paris trip coming up, this can be an opportunity where, let's say you wanted to do work with a tourism board or something like that. When you're at the hotel, you can, let's say, show you warming up at the hotel and tagging Hilton, for example. And, you know, you could save that reel in the future. So when you're hitting up another hotel, you can be like, hey, here's what I did when I was at this Hilton. And you could use that to build your story and campaign for the next thing that you do. So I think just kind of just like pivoting a little bit to building the intentional portfolio, right? Does that make sense? Like building it out, because your pitches will be a slam dunk when you start reaching out because you already have something to show them. Like, here's the Adidas sneakers that I wore, and I have a reel showcasing the sneaker, but also, doing whatever I'm doing. It's like an easier sell. So I think you need to just show them, just show right now. And then the tell is just a pitch or just reaching out to them.
Okay. The just a follow up to that, I think that's awesome. Definitely easy to like start building a portfolio around that. Would be like, how do you value your ticket item? Like, how do I value like, oh, my marketing, or oh, your podcast, or like, especially like when you're in the first stages, I guess.
Yeah, I think this is my controversial answer. I
Yeah.
always think of like, okay, if I had one brand deal, if it could pay my mortgage this month, I would be golden. So that's, to me, like, I start off there. But you have to test it. You have to put something out there and see what the reaction is. I get a lot of no's, but I get that few yeses. My mortgage is paid, right? So you have to just put a line in the sand and be like, this is the number I'm going to play with, and let brands say yes or no to that number. There are plenty of calculators out there. Like, if you wanted to be like, how do I price this reel based on this audience? But then you're a commodity at that point, versus thinking about like, also another thing to think about is like, if they're hiring you for marketing, really, like if they were to do this in-house, how much would they be spending on a photographer, videographer, scriptwriter? All of those things would be expenses for them to put this campaign together. And for you, you're doing it all in-house, all in one. So there's a couple of ways. I like to do my mortgage route. That's a good place to start and test it. But you can also think about like, if they were to spend this money, how much would they realistically spend? And do that gut check, do the work, come back and be like, do I feel like this was worth it for me? I need to charge more. Okay, I charge more. Or do I feel like I sold it too much and now I feel like I didn't do enough, like that I need to charge less. Like, it could go up or down.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Muscle on out.
I love that. I love that last piece of advice. And Kyle and I have taken that approach in our own clientele. It's like, all right, we sign a deal and then the next deal's got to be 10% more. And you just kind of keep climbing the ladder
Keep
until
pushing. Yeah.
until
They're
you feel
like,
you're-
wait, dude, no. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're not getting those, then you're probably undervaluing the product that you're selling to. So a couple of no's is probably a good thing as well.
And you'll get no's at every point. You'll get no's when you like put yourself the lowest and the highest. So you have to just pick something and go with it. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Jackie?
Yeah, I was just gonna just say about the affiliate links. I think, I got into the game kind of late and I always thought affiliate links were just ones thrown out there. But you can, I guess anything can be an affiliate link, just any partner that you're working with. Let's say you had them on the podcast, they have a course or they have something and they just create a link for you so that there's a discount for our audience. We get a little piece of it and they get more sales. So that's all it is. Because I'm trying to structure our podcast partners is where we have a carefully curated list of partners. And it is slower to do it that way, but I don't want anybody that I'm not like, we both aren't jumping up and down for.
Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
Okay. So 'cause when I would think about affiliate links, I kept thinking, you have to go to like an affiliate partner place and you have to pull a link. But when I realized that these can be customized partnerships, that was just better, I guess, languaging and setup for me, but is essentially an affiliate link.
Yeah, you can do both. You can absolutely do both. And a little hack, because I think sometimes it could be hard to be like, when you're emailing your guests, be like, do you have an affiliate program? So I just have it in my form. It's a question that's like, are you planning to talk about any products or services? If so, what is it? And can I join your affiliate program? So I don't even have to, all I have to do is review it and be like, hey, Susie, you said you had an affiliate program. Can you give me my link? So it just kind of takes that like conversation out of it and they can just, propose. So yeah, I love it. It's just literally a referral kickback. It's like, I refer you. And as
Right,
a
a
result of
referral,
that,
yeah.
that came to me. Yeah.
Jackie, don't you do, you guys know Jeremy Schneider, don't you? I think you just recently interviewed
Yeah,
him,
we
I
had
thought.
him. So he has a link. You know,
That's
well,
what
he
I
already
thought.
he already had one, but there's a couple unique things that I'm doing with other partners that really haven't done it before. But you know, I love what they do, and so we're having to customize it. Jeremy was easy; it was a slam dunk. There was one other one that was fairly easy, but that person was like crafting it themselves and it asked us what we thought. So I just love the idea of kind of like, you know, crafting it, you know, yourself again, based on your unique niche. Like to me, niching is like absolutely the best because it's just like hitting the nail on, like when you were talking about Heyro or those you know, media mentions or media people looking for media quotes and stuff like that. Most professional organizations do that too, like the Financial Planning Association does that. And you know, I'm on the email list, so I get 3 or 4 a day, and I like getting them, and it takes me 2 seconds to look at them, but I don't reply to any of them unless I hit the nail on the head. Like I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to waste their time because there's probably a whole bunch of other people. And I think over the last year or two, it might have been 2 things that I replied to, and you know, they used it, but only because I knew I hit the nail on the head, and it was exactly, you know, what they wanted. So I guess that's what I'm trying to do with these partners and figure out
Yeah.
how to make money from it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Claire?
Sorry, can I have one more quick question? I love the listen that you mentioned, listen notes.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I actually found out that my podcast is top 1.5%, which I don't know what that means.
Hey, it means you're
that-
doing amazing. That's what it means. Yes.
Yeah, so I think I can I love your example, Daniel, as well as like the sponsorship website. I've kind of had that in mind, but been prioritizing in a wrong way. So I'm gonna put it on my list and try to excerpt some of those things and sort of add it to it. Any other things? And sorry, I noted down the Hero, but any other websites y'all would suggest to kind of check, and I could just pull those stats or let people kind of, here is how you see that my podcast is performing among all of the others, if that's a fit for you.
So I would so Listen Notes, Listen Notes has good like average, how much, if you want to figure out like what your average listen for your show is, and the top ranking. So that's Listen Notes. Chartable will tell you how you're ranking per week in like different countries. It'll give you some other information. Chartable is like the one that I know. I don't know, Justin, if you know of any other ones. It's like
Yeah,
these tech come in and come out. Like
they do.
they do. It's hard to keep track beyond like the staples.
Yeah, I use those two outside of Spotify for podcasters and Apple Connect, which is really just your demographics and analytics for your Spotify listeners and for your Apple listeners. Like I think between the 4, that's a whole lot, plus your host.
Of information.
Yeah, plus your host. Like that's probably enough, unless you're also including email or social in some of your sponsorship packages, then you could probably pull from there as well.
Also, the brands have no problem asking you questions. So
Yeah.
when they ask you a question, you just, oh, let me go in there, add that in. So you'll build as you get more questions.
Yeah, super. I've done actually some of the like demographic. The cool thing is I have a lot of international guests, so I'm listening to. I like the Buzzsprouts data. Actually, they seem quite cumulative, and you can see where you're driving your audience from. So I think last time I checked, there was like 80 plus countries and territories. So I love being a worldwide, being a global surf enthusiast. But yeah,
That's
Excellent.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, crew. Any other questions?
I just want to see action. Go out. You got some information today. Just go and experiment and circle back to Justin and I. Let us know how it goes. And we're here to support you guys. So I love it.
Yeah, I'll send out this recording, Danielle's slides. I think Kyle's been collecting links as well that were mentioned and different things like that. So I'll put a summary together and send all of this out for anybody that is ready to take some action. And of course, if you need support, you got one-off questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Danielle.
Sounds great. Have a great week, everybody.
Later,
Thanks,
guys.
Justin.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.